DeadCentre, Day 4. I woke up and the first thing I saw was my breath leaving my body. That wasn't good. My mind struggled with my sleep-riddled brain to understand what was happening. It was cold. Very cold. My hands felt numb and the tip of my nose felt almost wet. I was still in the chair I'd collapsed in last night. My back refused to obey my mental command to move. My legs shifted a little, but the immediate pain made me stop that. Getting old isn't fun, kids, I thought, fully aware I was in my late 20s. The cold and the awkward sleeping arrangement had all but robbed of me of my ability to move. I managed to slip myself from the chair to my knees before the pain subsided. It took a good 10 minutes of stretching my fingers and massaging my calves before I could stand up straight. Grace was still on the table. I felt her head and the fever had broken. My agony was somewhat worth it. I headed out of the room in search of food and warmth. It would appear that with the power going out, the heating was also off the menu. Which made complete sense, seeing as the whole centre ran off electricity. There wasn't any central heating like in a traditional home. We would need warmer clothes, a generator, or some way to have a fire that wasn't going to asphyxiate me. I was mulling this over when I ran into Hazel. "How is she?" I asked, forgetting the basic pleasantries. "Her fever has come down, but she still hasn't woken up," she told me, her face showing a tiny sliver of hope. "That's good. How are you and everyone else?" I asked, more out of social expectation than genuine concern. I was hungry, and my everything hurt. "I'm surviving. The new girls you brought in yesterday seem to be blending in." That was good. I couldn't be arsed with drama. There were bigger problems at hand. In the staff room I made myself a healthy breakfast of a packet of crisps and a bag of assorted dried fruits and nuts. The food was running low too, and there was a certain aroma in the air of unwashed bodies. Too many problems and not enough time. I'd need to think harder or delegate the responsibility. Our main problems were food, heating, and hygiene. Food is relatively simple. Short term we would have to scavenge it. Long term we'd have to grow it. Heating was harder. I had a few ideas. Fire heating was the easiest method and most sustainable. We had a metric fuck-ton of pallets in the service yard made of wood, begging to be burned. The problem was ventilation. On the other hand, I had a stockroom full of electric heaters, just no power. Although I had a service yard full of cars, which had batteries. I might be able to do something with that, but I'm not an electrical engineer. Hygiene was a tough one. Delegation it is. I tracked down Ed. It didn't take long. It wasn't a big area. "Do you know anything about electrical engineering?" I asked him. "No, I've tinkered a little, but I'm not rewiring a nuclear bomb," he replied, like I was going to seriously ask him to rewire a nuclear bomb. "Do you think it's possible to run an electric heater from a car battery?" I crossed my fingers. "One battery? No. Multiple in a chain? Yes. But you'd need to charge them." "What about solar? They just finished refitting the roof last year," I asked. "That might work. I'll have to do some thinking." He scratched his chin. It sounded like a cat licking sandpaper. "Also, we're going to need to go and scavenge food. Do you think you could make some more spears?" I really wanted a spear. "That I can do, no problem. We have plenty of broom handles and knives." He paused. "Although it wouldn't be a bad idea to try and secure the stockroom. There's still some food in there, and plenty of useful shit." He wasn't wrong. We were a hardware store originally that sold primarily DIY stuff for homeowners. Then the chain branched out into all sorts, from food, gift sets, kids' toys, pet supplies, stationery, household cleaning products, cutlery, and even kitchen electronics. There was even a garden section, which would come in handy if they survived long enough to grow shit. A cage like the one they'd roll in sat in the back stockroom, filled to the brim with compost. There was no way to secure the shop. There was glass windows on 3 sides, all looking into the mall. The stockroom, which was more like a warehouse, was accessible from the shop floor and the service yard, but not the staff rooms. How would we do it? The doors don't lock and they aren't the sturdiest, I asked, hoping Ed had better ideas than I did. We'd have to go through the shop, secure the doors somehow, probably drill a chain into them, or just board it up completely. Then we would have to access through the service yard. It was a solid plan. It would solve one of their problems with food, and it would secure a second safe space. Grab Jackie. Who needs hitting? Jackie shot in as she popped her head out of the staff room. We're going to secure the stock room. You in? I asked, and she nodded. Ed went to grab his weapon. My hammer never left my side, and Jackie was armed, even if she was unarmed. I told Hazel the plan, and she let us out the magnetic door into the shop. I held the door closed on the other side till it locked in place. The shop was empty. Bodies still lay in the aisle, some I'd put there myself. The smell was starting, a horrid, sickly sweet rot that belied the true horror that awaited them. The stock room was a straight shot left, and I led the group, Jackie in the middle, Ed in the rear. I shouldered open the door into the stock room out of habit. The ceiling was higher, almost 2 floors tall. All of our stock was either in a cage ready to pull out and merchandise, or it was on the shelves, the tallest of which you'd need ladders to reach. I immediately went into the DIY section of the shelving and grabbed a chain as thick as my wrist with a padlock. Ed helped me snake it around the handles, and I clicked the padlock in place. Now that our entrance was secure, I went row by row, making sure nothing was lurking. Clear. There was only one place left that might have a member of the undead committee waiting to take a bite out of my ass at the least opportune moment. The cleaning cupboard. Cover me whilst I check the cleaning cupboard, I told Ed and Jackie. I pulled the door open with my left hand, hammer ready in my right. Nothing. Totally clear. Maybe my luck was starting to turn around. I was hoping we could make the cleaning cupboard into a makeshift shower. It had a water supply there already. It would be cold, but alive and clean beats dead and dirty any day of the week. It was beginning to look like the first day since the beginning of the apocalypse that I wouldn't have to bury my hammer in someone's face. Let's get the compost cages in front of the doors just in case. Then we can start sorting food into another cage, I told them, and we got to work moving cages. Now a stock cage is a bitch to move when empty, but put a ton of compost into it, and it's downright impossible. But somehow, we managed to get the 3 cages side by side in the doorway. There was no way anything was getting through that. Then we began sorting anything edible onto the empty cages. Christmas selection boxes, tubs of pick and mix, some more cereal bars. It wasn't healthy, but it was calories. Next we loaded up all the drinks that were on the rack. There wasn't enough time when we first raided it, but now we had all the time in the world. Now we just had to get it all in the staff room. The stock room had 2 doors, one giant garage door that was electric, and another slightly smaller side door. We chose the side door. Ed kept watch as I went and knocked on the back door to the staff rooms. Hazel opened it, and we began running cages into our empty, temporary haven. All in all, we'd live to see another day. On the way out of the stockroom, I taped the catch on the door to stop it locking, then put a door wedge in it to stop it from blowing open. It would stop the undead getting in. It wouldn't do anything to stop humans, however, but I didn't think we were at that stage of the apocalypse yet. We got it all squirreled away, and I headed into the staff room to share the good news. I walked into the middle of an argument. "What are we going to do if she turns into one of them?" the brown-haired lady with the kid was asking, balancing the baby in her arms. I think her name was Shannon. I really needed to get better at getting people's names. Frank started. "I'll crush her skull with my hammer myself." The whole room collectively jumped as I announced myself. I assumed they were talking about Grace. "If you don't like waiting till someone turns to do that, however, you can leave," I told them. "I'll give you some food, and you can go." There was strength in numbers, but I hoped some of them would, especially the one with the baby. That was an accident waiting to happen. I appreciate some of you may still have loved ones out there, and I'm not going to stop you from finding them because, and I'm not going to sugarcoat this, no one is coming to help us. No one spoke. But if you stay, we are going to establish some rules. We are going to have to fight every day to carve out whatever existence we can in this new world. I felt silly preaching, but I suppose everyone who's ever had to preach felt the same. I'm not going anywhere, Ed rumbled behind me. Me neither, Hazel spoke up. The others didn't look so certain. I didn't blame them. They'd known me for 4 days, and most of them had lost a whole lot more than I had. They weren't ready to understand that the hour of man had ticked on by, and all the creature comforts that living in the society provided were about to go out the window. Things were going to get a whole lot worse before they got any better. The prospect of the end terrified me, but the prospect of the new excited me in equal measure. It was like I'd been playing a game of Monopoly my entire life, but I joined right at the end, after all the property was already bought and the hotels raked in rent. Now the board had been reset, a fresh slate wiped clean. You don't have to make up your mind right now. Sleep on it. There's more food too, so eat and sleep. I told the room, then left, grabbing myself a healthy dose of cereal bars on the way. I took my seat next to Grace in the chair that had almost crippled me the night before. Sure could do with you waking up soon, I told her around a mouthful of some sort of mixed oats and dried fruit that had been contorted into a bar shape. Silence, the telltale sounds of civilization rendered mute. No whirring of electricity keeping machines on standby, no click or clank of mechanical means trying to keep the great cog of humanity turning. 5 more minutes, Grace whispered. That is the end of Day 4 on DeadCentre. Thank you for listening, and I apologize for the lack of an episode last week. As you may hear by my voice, I'm getting a little sick, which is ironic considering I'm writing a story about infections. But I hope to do better, and thank you for your patience. And if you want to hear next week's episode, be sure to subscribe.